In the highest echelons of global finance, a secret is being kept. It is a plan, a project, to fundamentally rewire the nature of money itself. A plan to move from the system we know to a new one, a system of total control. They have given it a name, Project Agorai. While the world is distracted by inflation, markets, and political chaos, the most powerful financial institution on earth, the Bank for International Settlements, or the BIS, is quietly collaborating with the central banks of the United States, the UK, Europe, and Japan to build the infrastructure for a new global currency. But this isn't just another digital currency. This is the blueprint for programmable money. Money that can be controlled, money that can be restricted, money that can expire. They will tell you this is about efficiency and modernization, a way to create a faster, safer financial system. But history gives us a darker blueprint. It shows us that whenever the powerful meet in secret to redesign money, it is never for the benefit of the people. To understand the future they are building for you, we must journey back over a century to a secret meeting on a private island that gave birth to the system they now seek to replace. This is the story of Jekyll Island 2.0. The year is 1910. The Gilded Age. America is a rising industrial titan, but its financial system is chaotic and unstable. There is no central bank. The nation's money is a patchwork of private banknotes and government-issued currency. Bank panics are common, wiping out the savings of ordinary people. Public trust in the great Wall Street bankers, men like J.P. Morgan, is at an all-time low. They are seen as puppeteers, the heads of a money trust that manipulates the economy for their own profit. The powerful knew that any plan to create a central bank, especially one designed by Wall Street, would be instantly rejected by the American public and by a government wary of concentrated power. So, they decided to create it in secret. In November of 1910, a handful of the most powerful men in the world boarded a private train car in New Jersey under the cover of darkness. There was Senator Nelson Aldrich, a Republican political heavyweight, and the father-in-law of John D. Rockefeller Jr. There was a Piatt Andrew, the Assistant Secretary of the Treasury. And there were the titans of banking, Frank Vanderlip of National City Bank, Henry Davison of the J.P. Morgan Company, and Paul Warburg, a partner at Kuhn, Loeb & Co., and the intellectual architect of the plan. They traveled under false names, telling no one where they were going. They were disguised as a group of duck hunters on a holiday trip. For over a week, they secluded themselves at a private hunting lodge on Jekyll Island, a remote barrier island off the coast of Georgia. There, in total secrecy, they hammered out the blueprint for a new American financial system. Their stated goal was noble: to create an institution that could prevent bank panics and provide stability to the economy. But their real goal was far more strategic. Paul Warburg, who had come from the European central banking dynasty, knew that the real power was not in owning assets, but in controlling the creation of money itself. The plan they designed was a masterpiece of political deception. It would be a central bank, but it would not be called a central bank. It would be called the Federal Reserve System. It would appear to be a government entity with a board appointed by the president. But in reality, it would be a cartel, a network of regional reserve banks owned and controlled by the very private banks it was supposed to regulate. And it would be given the single most powerful ability a government can possess: the legal right to print money from nothing. After the secret meeting, a sophisticated, years-long lobbying campaign was launched to sell the plan to Congress and the American people. In 1913, just before Christmas, when many members of Congress had already gone home for the holidays, the Federal Reserve Act was passed and signed into law. The Jekyll Island plan had succeeded. A private banking cartel now had control of America's money supply. The consequences of this secret meeting have defined the last century. The Federal Reserve was given the power to create a new elastic currency, the Federal Reserve Note, the dollar we use today. This new money was not fully backed by gold. It was a fiat currency, a debt-based instrument that could be created at will by the central bank. This gave the government the ability to fund massive projects, including 2 world wars, not by taxing its citizens, but by printing money and going into debt. This printing of money is inflation. It is a hidden, silent tax. It is a systematic transfer of wealth from the savings of the people to the government and the banking sector. The secret of Jekyll Island was not just the creation of a bank. It was the creation of a machine for the perpetual debasement of currency and the consolidation of financial power. Now, fast forward to today. The system born on Jekyll Island is in its death throes. After decades of runaway spending and unprecedented money printing, the US dollar and all the world's fiat currencies are losing credibility. The global mountain of debt is unpayable. The system is broken. And so, just like in 1910, the powerful are meeting in secret to design its replacement. Project Agorai is Jekyll Island 2.0. The players are the same archetypes. Instead of a handful of Wall Street bankers, it is the Bank for International Settlements, a secretive, unelected institution in Switzerland that serves as the central bank for central banks. Its collaborators are not just American banks, but the central banks of the entire G7, the Federal Reserve, the European Central Bank, the Bank of England, the Bank of Japan, and others. The same powers that control the current system. Their stated goal is the same noble-sounding mission: to create a more efficient and integrated financial system. But their real goal is the same as it was in 1910, to maintain and expand their control over the money supply in the face of a systemic crisis. This time, the technology they plan to use is infinitely more powerful than the printing press. They call it tokenization. It is the concept of representing all assets, not just money, but stocks, bonds, property titles, and commodities as unique digital tokens on a unified ledger controlled by the central banks. In their vision, your bank account would no longer hold dollars. It would hold digital tokens. And these tokens would be programmable. This is the key. Programmable money is money with rules and restrictions coded directly into it. Think about what this means. The government could issue stimulus payments that have an expiration date. If you don't spend the money within 30 days, it simply vanishes from your wallet. This is a tool to force consumer spending, whether you like it or not. They could restrict what you are allowed to buy. Worried about climate change? They could program the money so that it cannot be used to purchase gasoline, or can only be used for one flight per year. They could implement negative interest rates directly. In a recession, instead of lowering rates for banks, they could have your digital wallet automatically shrink by 2% every year, forcing you to spend rather than save. Taxes could be automatically deducted from every single transaction you make in real time. And most chillingly, it is the ultimate tool of social control. If a person's political views are deemed problematic, their access to their own money could be instantly frozen. No appeals. No recourse. You are simply cut off from the ability to buy, sell, and exist in the economy. This is not a distant, dystopian fantasy. This is the explicit goal. Augustin Carstens, the head of the BIS, said it himself in 2020. He stated that the key difference between a central bank digital currency and cash is that with a CBDC, the central bank will have absolute control on the rules and regulations that will determine the use of that expression of central bank liability. And also, we will have the technology to enforce that. Absolute control. The technology to enforce it. The plan being designed in Project Agorai is the blueprint for a digital panopticon, a financial prison where every transaction is monitored and every dollar is controlled by a central authority. They will sell this to you as a convenience, a way to fight crime and tax evasion, the same way they sold the Federal Reserve as a way to fight bank panics. But the real reason for this shift is the same as it was in 1910. The old system is dying, and they need a new one to maintain their power. The global debt-based fiat system is mathematically unsustainable. It has reached its endgame. The only tool they have left to manage it is more printing, which will only lead to hyperinflation and a total loss of confidence. Programmable money is their proposed solution. It is their great reset, a way to manage the coming collapse not by solving the debt problem, but by seizing unprecedented control over the population's financial lives. It is the final enclosure. In the 18th century, they enclosed the common land, forcing peasants into wage dependency. In the 20th century, through inflation, they enclosed the value of our savings. In the 21st century, they plan to enclose money itself, turning it from a tool of freedom into a mechanism of control. The parallel to Jekyll Island is exact. A secret project, led by a small group of unelected financial powers, to redesign the entire monetary system for their own benefit, sold to the public under the guise of safety and progress. This is the great deception of our time. They are not building a better system for you. They are building a more controlled system for them. The question is, what can be done? The first step is knowledge, to understand the blueprint, to see the pattern, to recognize that when the powerful speak of financial innovation, they are often speaking of financial enslavement. They are counting on your confusion. They are counting on your apathy. They are counting on you to accept this new system as an inevitable technological upgrade. But it is not inevitable. The alternative has always been the same: real, tangible assets that exist outside of their control. Gold, silver, assets that cannot be programmed, that cannot be deleted, and that have maintained their value through the collapse of every paper-based system in history. The plan for Project Agorai is the signal. It is an open admission that the architects of the current system know it is failing. They are building its replacement in the shadows. It is Jekyll Island 2.0, but this time, the stakes are not just the value of our money, but our very freedom to use it. If you are ready to continue decoding the financial myths that shape our world, subscribe to Economythics and click the notification bell.